By Web 2, we're going to have we're going to put a version control into this, and we're going to add another layer of not only protection, but another set of features. So we've left CodePen projects. We're no longer using CodePen projects because we saw the limitations there. And CodePen projects is great for you to get your feet wet and to get started on this, but not a lot of websites are hosted there. They're practiced there. We figure stuff out. We learn there. And then from there, we go to Netlify and GitHub. And it might seem like a lot to have all these different services. And this is what all the companies like Squarespace and Webflow and Wix are trying to do, is say, hey, you don't have to think about all this. And I know I sound like a broken record, but our process is important. In the upcoming weeks, we're going to be looking at templates, and we're going to start with templating today. And like, here's a template A, and here's template B, and here's template C. Pick the template that you work, and then we're going to look at how we can modify that. So in terms of design, it picks up. Okay. And today we're going to get a refresher on our process, which you should have down. And then we're going to do a introduction into responsive design. And these are the core foundations to getting stuff done. And if your thought here is like, we haven't done a lot of visual stuff, I hope you begin to see how much is required up front to understand the code that we're going to be looking at later. Right? We want to be able to make sure this is the evergreen stuff. These last 6 weeks have been stuff that's not going to leave you. These are the core foundations of HTML and CSS. And the rest of the stuff, the later on, the rest of the core, that's all the stuff that might change. How I did layout, how I learned to do layout is different than how you're learning to do layout. And every not every Web 1 class, but many Web 1 classes in between. So these languages are evolving, and we just have to get used to it. Okay, so all that said, let's go ahead and get into this. The first thing I want to have you do is actually take a look at my screen, because this is going to help us, or take a look at your screen right now. Okay, inside of the chat, I'm going to paste a URL right inside of the chat. And this is going to help us get ready for responsive design. And then all I want you to do is take a look at this URL inside of the chat. Okay, I'm going to put this to everyone. Inside the chat, take a look at the URL. And then what I want you to do is either say out loud or type in the chat room, what color is the background, right, on the site that you're looking at. When you go to that URL, what do you see? What color is the background?
Red.
Red? Anybody else?
Yes, it's red.
Red? Anybody else?
I see green.
Green? All right, keep going. Or you're all at the same URL. How can you see a different color? This doesn't make any sense. Right? Here on one iPad, same URL, it's red. Okay. And I'm going to bring this up on a different iPad. It's exact same URL. Why is this happening? Can anybody guess? All right, what does this have to do with responsive design? How can we all be looking at the exact same URL, but see a completely different site?
Is it that higher quality displays see different colors?
There you go. Andy, say that again, please. So the
higher quality displays seem different colors than lower quality displays.
Right. It's basically just about pixel density. And you know, it's where this gets really, really complicated. Is so on one screen, I'm going to show you this screen right here. Right, the screen that I'm looking at right now is green. Right, and then on my phone here, it's red. Right, on the iPad, just showed you it was red. So how can that be? And what this is getting us ready for, and we do this in class, and I was like, pull out your devices, and everybody brings it up. It's like everybody's got a different color. So what we're doing is we're not only detecting devices, we're detecting features and your screen density and how many pixels are in a certain space, right? And subpixels is a completely different topic. You know, whether or not you for a while, whether or not your phone had GPS, whether or not there's all these different features, and whether or not you can do what's local storage is a new hotness in web design. And we're not detecting just like Windows versus Mac, Android versus iOS. That's like the wrong way to think about responsive design. Really, what we're doing and talking about responsive design is features. Okay. And one of the first features is the size of your screen. How wide is your screen? How big is your screen? And so today we're going to be looking at some really dry examples, but these are the foundations of responsive design, and we're going to make sure that we understand this. Right, and that's what we're going to get into today is this responsive design. But the first thing we're going to do is practice our process. So I need you to go to the course homepage. And what I'm going to do now is stop sharing a single window. I'm going to share my entire desktop for all the good and bad of that. Let's see here. So right now you should have VS Code fired up. You should be on Netlify, right? And that's going to be our text editor. So let me share my desktop. Okay, the entire desktop. You should see my, right? Y'all see my entire screen? Yes, yes. See me moving a window around here? Good, thank you, thank you. All right, so this window that I'm moving around is representative of my desktop. What I'm going to do is go into Netlify, which has a copy of my website right now. It has the latest copy of my website, the latest version of my website. I'm going to go into the deploys. So I'll go back to my site, go to click on anywhere in this white space right here and download the latest deploy. Again, the latest deploy was April 30th at 4:14 p.m. I get used to this transparency. Colin, will you stop saying that? No, I'm not going to. Okay, get used to this level of transparency. Your clients, your team, everybody can see when and how often you're working on something. Okay, all right, go ahead and download the zip file. Once you have that downloaded, you can, it says download ready. Go ahead and download that. I'm going to save that to my desktop. And once that's all saved, we can extract it. Okay, unzip, unrar, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so there it is right there. And then I'm going to launch VS Code. Visual Studio Code is going to be our text editor. And this is where we actually get to play with our site. So let me remove all the cruft here from previous classes. Okay. And if you see this little warning here, it just means like you can't find your old file and you're just going to have to control click or on Windows right click and get rid of it. All right. I like the old one. I like the old way this used to be set up. I don't like the new. Anywho. All right, so now that we got all that, you can simply take your site that you downloaded, right? The extracted, not the zip file. We're done with that. You can even delete the zip file because we're done with it. You can take your newly extracted folder, deploy, and drop it right into your workspace. And go ahead and yes, go ahead and add to workspace. Now, and then we're going to go find index.html. Some of us were having issues with the go live, and so hopefully by putting it into a workspace, we can see this now. And I just saw the go live before class. It's like everything breaks as soon as I get to class. My goodness. All right, if it's go live working for you, hit the go live button. If it's not working for you, let's go ahead and figure out why go live isn't there. This is the nice thing about working in the lab. Everyone's on the same machine and in the same setting here. Open editors. Where is my stuff? Remove from workspace. Index.html. There it is. We just got to remove all the other stuff from workspace. I don't like that, but all right, we're going to go find this randomly generated folder name. We're going to go find index.html, hit the go live button. If it launches in a new browser, go ahead and copy and paste the URL and paste it into Firefox. All right, good there. So on my left here is the folder that has been extracted. Okay, that's all of my files right there. On my right is going to be the new template. And so we're going to go ahead now and go to the course website. And right here, we're going to download basic template. And you can save that again to your desktop. Okay, we can extract it. And we can. All right, so the files are basically the same, right? They look exactly the same. But there's one difference. I went ahead and added some stuff into this just so you can see this here, right? And this is just a generic template for all of your content, your home, your portfolio, your contact, right? So why am I showing you this template? Let's say you fell behind in class today, or you just want to say, you know what, I just want to start from ground zero, from the very, very beginning, right? On the course website, right, there's a template right here to catch everybody up. But if your site looks like this and you're ready to go, right, and you got everything set up, right, you can just continue on with what you have. Next week, there's going to be different templates. And what I'm checking for is you should be able to download template A, B, and C, or any one of the templates, right? And keep updating your site. Okay. So if I wanted to modify the site, I can just take this and just drop it into here and just override, replace. On Windows, what is it called? It's been a while since I've used a Windows machine. When you replace a file, is it replace still? Windows users, help me out here.
Yeah, I think it's called replace.
Great, thank you. All right, and if I replace that, notice I replaced my my page, right? I replaced my index.html. So basically, we're going to have all of the source files, right? All the stuff that if you fell behind in class, you can just download it and you can take everything. Okay, you can come in here and say, just give me everything, right? Or you can just cherry pick all the stuff that is missing. Okay. All right. Good there. So I'm just going to cherry pick that. Let's say my home page isn't working. Let's see here. My live preview is right here. All right. Good. Check. Okay. All right. And then once you got that, you can go ahead and say you like, if you wanted to change this, you can go to index.html and now put your bio, right? This is going to be your bio. Okay. Hit save on this and then go back into, I'm going to come in here and change your name to my name, right? For lack of time, we're going to go ahead and use what's here, right? And there's a picture of me.jpg. I'm going to replace this with img/me.jpg. Again, we're going into the img folder and into me.jpg, right? This is where we talked about understanding our file and folder structure, right? Because we're talking to the machine here. The other thing about VS Code that we don't get with CodePen is, look, it's giving us code completion, right? It's gonna list out all of your files right here in your folder. So this is very handy. So this is the name of the folder, and we separate a file and a folder with a /. And if you know all of this already, just hang in there. I'm going to hit save here, and there it is. Right, I've taken this template. Right, let's say I lost my files, or I don't like my files, or I just want to start over. I've downloaded a template. I've modified this template. And so what I'm doing right now is replicating our process. Okay. And so let's say I'm done for all this. I'm going to close up VS Code. I'm going to close this up. Okay. And so I've and the term is poach, right? It's our industry is full of very, very dramatic terms, but we've poached the files that we needed. So I'm going to delete that. Okay. There is our website. And if I wanted to update that, now I can go back into Netlify, find our deployment, and drag and drop the new one right into here. And that's going to be our process. This is the process that you're going to wash, rinse, and repeat over and over and over again. I want you to get used to working like your computer is going to stop, like your computer is going to break at any point in time. Okay? Like you're going to catch a virus on your computer and it's going to like ruin everything. Your file should stay safe. All right, now we hit our deployed, right? And there we go. We can even preview our deploy, and those are the new changes that we just made. Okay, so that's the URL. That should be working, your hover domain, and then we have our local URL, which is 1.2.7.0.1, right? Or whatever the machine spit out for us. Good, good. All right, throw up a thumbs. Let me know that you understand our process. Check, check. All right. This is crucial, right? When someone says like, what did you learn in Collins Web 1, right? Modern process, like modern workflow. They're gonna be, well, what are you talking about? Like, well, I know about continuous deployment. Like, ooh, fancy. All right, right. I'm getting started on version control. Ooh, wow. All right, these are just I'm not exaggerating here. These are really, they're challenging, right? And you're gonna get really, really good at them. All right, now that we have that, let's get in the Master Professor pin and let's get into the new material. All right, we're gonna get into the Professor pin and let's start talking about the new material today. And the new material is responsive design. So I'm gonna close up all of this stuff. I'm gonna go into the Professor pin and let's start talking about this. All right, responsive design is normally seen as this. And if you take any any UX class of me, let's see here, RWD, yes, we're doing stuff with Chuck Norris, responsive design mockups. You typically see these a lot, and I rail against these mockups because they don't do responsive design justice. You have seen these mockups everywhere, and this is what people think responsive design is. And again, this is really disheartening to me because that's not responsive design. We just figured out, right? Andy just demonstrated to us at the beginning of class. She correctly pointed out, like, hey, this is about features. Like pixel density is a feature, right? Basically, anytime you go to look to buy a new device, right? That table that says, you know, this device is better than that device. Those are all features. Like how many cameras on a phone nowadays? It's crazy. Number of cameras on a phone. We're getting, it's getting ridiculous, right? But these are all features, and so that's how I want you to think about responsive design, right? I want you to think about responsive design as not so much, right? Why are the colors so different? Red versus green versus red and pink. The red versus pink are just what the device is going to do. But Kayla, why they're green and why they're red is we'll talk about that in throughout this lecture. So, right. So I don't want you to think about responsive design like this anymore. Okay, I want you to think about responsive, all the stuff you can't see. Okay, there is the video, the image that I showed you. Let's see, Atomic Design Fridge, Brad Frost. This is web design. Here, I have the slide somewhere, but it's probably easier for me to Google for it. All right, this is what we think the web is. This is what the web really is. Right? When I have I have friends that have a really fancy fridge. There's a huge display in that fridge, and I went over there and said, "Oh, this is fun." They're like, yeah, we can get our shopping list on our fridge. And then I started hacking at their fridge, and I put up my website on their fridge and said, "Check it out, my website's on your fridge." How did that happen? Right? It's like, yes, we're designing for a fridge. We're designing for any web-enabled display, including the ones on your wrists. If you have an Apple Watch, it can show websites. Right, reading websites on my watch is a very enjoyable experience because there's no ads. I can just quickly scroll through a site really, really quickly. So it's great. Okay, and there's that. Oh, so phone cameras. All right, we can Google for that in our own time. Let's get into this. All right, the first place to start with responsive design, our responsive design foundations, is this formula: target divided by result equals context. Right, I'm a target divided by context equals result, right? The context that you need to know for this class is 16 pixels, 16 px, 1m is 16 pixels. And this all starts with text. I paused for good reason. When we talk about responsive design foundations, like what is this all about? 2012, 2011, Ethan Marcotte came up with this formula. right? He's widely regarded as the person who figured out responsive design for us, because before we had mobile sites, right? Eastern used to have a site called m.ewu.edu. It was made by a CS major long, long ago, right? And now the website responds to devices. Instead of saying, oh, you're not on a desktop computer, we're going to shoot you off to a completely different website. So I highly recommend watching this presentation. It is a very seminal presentation about this idea of flexibility. And he really came about this, this idea of responsive design from architecture. I know you can't hear the audio right now, but he was looking at architecture rooms, and the rooms the interior space would adapt and adjust to the people in the room, and the people were the content, and the rooms were the sites. And I can't stress this enough. So wonderful presentation that I wish would load right now, but the internet is slow all around. So in your own time, go ahead and watch this presentation if you'd like to know, like, where did all this stuff come from, right? There's that. Again, our target divided by context equals our result. We are done with fixed sizes, like pixels. That the pixels is a fixed size. Okay, we want relative sizes, like percentages. All right, so target divided by result, context equals result. I'm going to keep saying that. So the first place we need to start off with responsive design is right here, right? Insert meta viewport tag. So we go into our HTML settings. This is the thing that is always inserted into the head of our document. Okay, this is what we always need for our sites. So, and if you would take a look at VS Code, it inserts this by default. And without this, we don't have responsive design turned on. And this is basically saying, take the meta element. And meta is information about information. So the information about our page, okay? And on the viewport size, on the size of the window, adjust the device width from there. And we're going to scale at 100, okay, or at 100%, or the default. And if you've ever gone to a website and you try to pinch and zoom, right? Someone made this so you couldn't pinch and zoom. And you can be a mean web designer and make it so no one can pinch and zoom on your websites. Don't do that. It's user hostile. Okay, don't. Let people allowed to pinch and zoom on a website. Let them scale. All right, so that's the first part, right? Without this, all this talking goes out the window. Like this meta viewport tag is really important to responsive design. Otherwise, we don't have responsive design. Okay. Well, we have the concept of responsive design. We don't have media queries. All right, so don't forget meta viewport. All right, let's start with flexible typography. Okay, so inside the HTML right here, I'm going to grab in all of this HTML and I'm going to paste it into the Professor Pen. Okay. All right, today is one of the Eat Your Vegetables lectures. This is a big time Eat Your Vegetables lecture. Like this, just eat your vegetables and they're good for you. Okay, so here is some HTML. Right, with H1 and anchor link, right, paragraph, anchor link, easy stuff. So normally what designers would come and do is kind of treat this like, well, they kind of treat it like Microsoft Word. So we'll come in here and we'll select our body font size, and all the font sizes start at 100%. Okay, so that's the default, right? This is how everything looks before you start changing stuff. All right. And let's take our H1, okay? And what happens is, oops, I left the answers in there. Excuse me. All right, so it comes in here and designers say, I want this thing to look like 48 pixels, right? And you're gonna come in here and select your paragraphs. And you're saying like, I want these paragraphs to be 24 pixels. And that made sense for decades, right? That made complete sense for decades. And then till we got these different resolution screens. And on one screen, the text was super small, and another screen the text is super big, because everything was adjusting to the device. And we're like, what is going on with the web? The web is just so inconsistent. And we got into the, hey, just download this browser and change your screen resolutions to this. And I don't know if y'all are old enough to remember that, but there was a time when they used to say, hey, use this browser. And change your screen resolutions to this. And that was all user hostile. And so now what we want to say is we want to design for current browsers past browsers and any other browser on any other device in the future. And I'm tapping my glasses because that's the future, right, of your websites. Okay. I'm not going to contact. Oh, Christopher Collin goes off on his rants about the future of the web, right? They all laughed at me when I said, you know what, Colin, not everyone's going to want a blah, 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 a phone in their pocket. It's like, you wait. Good. All right. Yeah. You're going to have to design for that, y'all. Okay. All right. So a lot of its stuff is there. All right. So now that we have that, we want to make it flexible. Okay. So what I'm doing right here by adjusting the percentage is changing the pixel density. So on some screens, right, it has 200% resolution, right? On some screens, it's 150. Okay. And right now, what this is doing is not doing very much. Look, I've changed it to 100 and nothing. Oh, that's going to make the browser mad. Nothing is changing because these are fixed units. Because these are fixed units. Third time, these are fixed units. Your days of using pixels for fonts are over today and forever. Okay? Unless you want to tell your users, use this browser at this screen size. Oh, on this device. Okay, we got to get past those days. Those days are done. All right, so to do this, our target is we want it to look like this. And so what's going to be weird about what we're going to be doing here in the next couple minutes is if the website changes the way it looks, we're doing this wrong. What we're trying to do here is change these to fluid units without breaking the design. So to do this, we're going to have, that's our target. Okay, so again, our formula that Ethan Marcotte gave us, thanks Ethan, target divided by context, okay, equals result. And the results should be in relative units. Because otherwise you're going to end up changing these one at a time. And that's not what I want for you. I value your time so much. All right, so we want this to look at 48 pixels. We're going to divide by our context, which is 16 pixels. So how do we know that's 16 pixels? All right, watch this. There's a paragraph. Here it is, 16 pixels, right? It looks like that, okay? Watch what happens when when I take this all away. Looks exactly the same. That's the default context, is 16 pixels. Why? Because what we can't see here is this space. So basically, just like Microsoft, the Word defaults to 12, right? You have 12 pixels, top and bottom, and then you have 2 pixels above and below. Therefore, you get this space right there. You see the space between the lines? Those are the extra 4 pixels, 2 below and 2 on top. That's how we get 16, right? What I'm showing you is these invisible lines that run through a website. And these invisible lines are going to cause you heck if we don't recognize that they're there. Right? You can't set a grid system unless till you can see these invisible lines. And that's why we're here on our college level course talking about invisible things. Okay. Otherwise, we can just go and download templates. We just go to CodePen and say copy paste. Right. Hey, this is cool. Right. I'm just gonna copy and paste this. And then you get asked, how does that work? I don't know. Okay. It's one of my favorite questions asked. I go, I love that design. How does it work? I don't know. I just copied and pasted it. Cool. Right. Until you want to change it. So we want to change this. So we're going to have 48 divided by 16 is 3, and 3m. 3 are basically m squares if you're taking typography, right? So it's about the size of the capital letter M. And same thing here. You're going to take, our target here is 24. So 24 divided by 16, okay? And again is 1.5 m. Good there, okay? And so how do we know that this is working? Watch what happens. I'm going to take this 24px. I'm going to quickly replace this m. Right, and watch what happens to the screen. Nothing. That's how we know we have the right units. Now watch when we do this. I'm going to instead paste in 23 pixels. 23 pixels, right? We know that 24 divided by, yeah. So instead of pasting in 24, just 1 pixel off, just 1 pixel, 1 pixel. Notice the difference. See that little tick right there? That's the difference between a pro and an amateur, right? You've all gone to websites and like, well, how come everything just shifted? right? Even by one pixel shift, right? Watch me paste in 25. You're going to see this 1 pixel shift. And what we don't is we don't want to have any of those shifting pixels. We want to have our stuff scale fluidly across all these different types of devices. Boom, right? 1 pixel. 1 pixel up or down is makes a huge difference, as you see here. But we know that this is 24, right? So there's 24 pixels. And if we paste in very, very quickly before the browser refreshes itself, look, that's how we have the right units. All right, we good there? Thumbs, you with me? There's a lot talking about 2 pixels, okay? This is what makes us pros. This is why this is a class. I created this class. I will end this class, right? If I don't think if this becomes a vocational thing, like there's big concepts to this. All right, that's our flexible typography, okay? All right, so now we're going to deal with the stuff inside, right? So inside of the anchor link, inside of the H1, there's an anchor link. So now we're going to style this thing, okay? So right now you might think, well, the anchor, the H1, okay, is 48 pixels, and you're going to divide that one by 16, right? So that means it's going to get 3M because our anchor link is inside of there. Then that happens. It actually did what you told it to. Take the 3M. Oh, and by the way, make it 3M again. So it's really much bigger than 3M. 9M at this point. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Remember, target divided by context equals result. Target divided by context equals result. So what we're doing here, we want it to look like 48 pixels. Don't change. But the context has now changed. Who is the parent of this anchor link? It's not the page, because the page is 16. Right? That is the context of the page before you do anything to it. So what is the default context? 16 pixels, right? But instead, the anchor link is inside of the H1, so the context has now changed. The context is now 48. And so 48 divided by 48 is 1, and then voila, right? That's the way it should look, okay? And this is going to be true of resizing our containers. Okay? When you have a parent inside of a child container inside of a parent container, right? I know this is dry. I know this is boring. Like, I understand all this, right? But what we want to do is really make sure where all this stuff is coming from. All right, so let's go ahead. All right, Callum, thank you. Good answer. Same thing here with our paragraph. Okay, Colin's going to show you why this is important here in just a second. All right, so this one is the same thing. We want it to look like 24 pixels, right? And if we divide by 16, we get 1.5 M. And if we do with 1.5 M, right, it got all bigger all of a sudden. Really, our context, because we have an anchor link inside of a paragraph, is 24 divided by 24, which is going to give you 1 M. Okay. All right, so later on, beginning of class, we came in here and I said, all right, so on a small size screen, it's going to take this and bump it up, right? On a 1x screen, it's going to bump this up. On a 2x screen, it's going to bump it up to 200. This is what's going to happen to all your responsive devices. Ready? That's 2x. That's 3x. And you don't have to worry about this, right? And if something is half x or half the pixel density, it's going to bump it down. This is how it looks like on a fridge, right? With a very cheap screen, right? Half the pixels, right? All right, give me 4 times the pixels. No problem, I got you covered. Right, the text is still fluid. It scales nicely, and you don't have to worry about it. All right, so our default is always going to be 16, right? For web browsers, right? Well, up until 2020, right? I don't know what's going on, but it's probably going to stay 16. Good. Okay. So now that that's what's happening. Now, if your thought is, oh my goodness, there's a lot of things to just think about. Well, we have 2 options: designed for one screen and never ever think about it, which is true, right? You go to a lot of websites and like just use our desktop site, and your mobile device, you have this little desktop site. So right here is all the different sizes, and this is a nice website that talks about all the physical sizes and the pixel densities. Yeah, so here's that 200 and 4x and 5x and 8K and 4K and 6K. What I want you to do is not have to worry about this stuff so much, because your site should respond to it. And that's really what we're looking for. All right, Kayla, could you rephrase your question? All right, so, all right, good. Thumbs with me? Yeah. If you
I'm
make
just
your
wondering
response,
how to figure out like how to get the variable of the context. If it does change, if it's not always 16 to be on the web, like how will you know what the top context number is or should be?
use 16, you'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. I will let you know if that ever changes, but for right now, use 16. Good. All right, and this is what's happening on our devices, right? On the ones that are a pixel density of 200%, it's coming in here and said, give me 200% of the pixels, okay? And by changing the font size, we're replicating this. Okay? I didn't increase the pixel 200%. That's not what I'm doing right now. What I'm doing is responding to the screen density. All right, so by default, everything is already responsive, and all of our layouts and all the stuff we do breaks this responsiveness. Yeah. Okay, so this is a nice reference, right? If for some reason you do had to design for a very, very specific thing like the Fujitsu Stylistic Q737, here are all the specs on it. So it's a nice resource that I listed. What a name, Fujitsu Stylistic Q736. All right, does anybody have a Fujitsu Stylistic Q736? No? Okay, just checking. All right, so there's typography. Next, we have containers. All right, this is even easier with the CSS grid. This lecture, this next part right here, is just to get you started on the foundations of this. Okay, but the nice thing is CSS grid, the next part of your homework, right, will make a lot of this easy, but you need to know what CSS grid is doing for you. All right, so here we have a site that is a width of 600 pixels and a width of 400 pixels, and this is what happens on a big screen. Just it's all good, but then we get to a small screen and this happens, right? And then you get the horizontal scrolling. So anytime someone says just scroll horizontally, you leave the website. Okay. There are very, very few good horizontally scrolling websites. Very few, right? There's every time there's a good horizontally scrolling website, we all get excited. Okay. Anybody here like scrolling horizontally on a website for content? All right.
No.
Good. So what we want to do here is take all these fixed units here. Okay. What we want to do is make them responsive. So we're going to apply that same technique right here to, right, and here is the solution. Let's figure out what the solution is. So first off, you're going to take your body element or your main container. In this case, it's the body. Okay, main is a good one too. And notice on this solution, what's happening here. Okay. So this width of 90% is basically up to you as a designer. It's the space between the Chrome. That's why your browser is called, that's why Google has that browser code Chrome. Pro tip, avoid 100% for your content, because your windows, right, your scroll bars will eat into your website. What you can't see here is a little bit of the browser is eating into the website. So this number right here is a little bit arbitrary, right? You can go as close as 99% and you can go as far away as whatever you like. 90% is a good start. Yeah, and the tough part is this part is arbitrary, right? So that's where that number comes in. Now the other numbers we're going to take a look at aren't so arbitrary. Okay. So let's get this down. First off, this container was 600%. This title of main article that is gray. Okay, it was 600%. Yeah, and notice when we collapse it, right? Because we changed our main container to now percentage. So this is no longer fluid; it's fixed. So we're just going to apply the same formula, right? Our target is 600. What's the context? Well, if we take a look at article, it's inside of main. And if we take a look at main, right, main was originally 1,000 pixels. Okay. And so as you're designing, right, just like in typographic scale, right, this is why when you take a not web design, we take type. right? Typographic scale has all these units that are easy and to divide and multiply by, right? And we're going to take the same concept of typographic scale and we're applying it to web design. So we started out with 1,000, right? Because it was an easy number to work with. And that was our context. So our target, we want to make it look like 600. Our context is what is the thing in, right? Is 1,000. So easy math, 600 divided by 1,000 is 60. Instead of being 600 pixels, it's 60%. And we're doing the exact same thing down here to width, right? We wanted it to look like 400 pixels, okay? But we took 400 divided by 1,000, we got 40%, right? And again, really dry example, but we can go from small, medium, and large. And what you need to realize right now is, yes, the stuff is responsive, but it gets squishy and small. And that's where we're going to in a little bit here. So great, my text is responsive, my containers are responsive, right? But now I have to deal with the actual content. And it's by piling on all these different layers, right, that we can see this. All right. Oh, good, Andy, you finished the responsive design course. Yay. Nice. All right. Good. All right. Let's get into this. I have it turned on so you guys can message each other privately if you want. So, do you know, everybody know your messages are public and I can see them? So I don't mind that you might message each other privately. Just be aware that I can see your messages. A certain class messed up, and it's like, oh, I was like, that's okay. I got thick skin. It's all right. I'm not hurt by what you said. All right. So we got that. Now we're going to go ahead and take adaptive content. So for Web 1, I make adaptive content really, really easy. So let's get rid of all the solution for a second. All right, so now we're taking a look at adaptive content. We got all this content, right? So we've started with text, we went to our containers, and this process right here is, I can't stress to you enough, like, this is not, like, the process isn't the same, but the concepts are. And if you just understand the big concepts in this, you'll be fine in terms of responsive design. So you have all this content, right? One of them is this huge image, and you scroll down, there's a YouTube video that looks like this. And YouTube videos or video embeds or Google Maps, they're not responsive by default, right? They're not. And so we have to make them responsive, right? Like, no one wants you to see their video cut off like this. And no one wants to have this big image take up all the content. So how I teach you in Web 1 is the easiest way possible. All right, start with the image and give it a width, right? And CSS Grid makes this even easier, right? But again, we're learning the underpinnings of this. All right, so now we have this image. We're going to give it a width of 100% and then resize your window and saying, make this width of 100% adjust to the window size. All right. So the upside to this is it's responsive. Yay, we're done, Colin. No more listening to you. The downside to this is you're still loading in this big image. Future Web 1 classes will get this, okay? Just so you're aware of this, okay? Hopefully we can do this. It's not quite ready for us yet, but you can use the picture element. And what the picture element says is, give me one size and then give me all of the other sizes. Give me a default size. And what the picture element says is, based upon the size of the screen and the pixel density and all those other factors, right? It's going to load in multiple images. And this, by the way, is what we're getting with Netlify. So in future web classes, you're going to see how Netlify is going to take your single image and resize it for you. It's really cool. So the upside to this method right here, okay, is that it works. The downside of this method is we're still loading in this massive image and just making it smaller, right? There's some trade-offs here. This is a definite kludge, okay? So for some reason in web design, we use the word kludge a lot, but yeah, right? It's a definite kludge. It works. It isn't the best solution. It's a good solution. It just gets a little bit more complicated. There's better solutions, but it takes more steps that we don't have in Web 1. All right, so we can do the same thing for all of our other elements, okay? And we also don't want it now on a big screen. We don't want it to stretch to 200%. We don't want it to stretch to 300%. So you're going to give this thing a max width of 100%. And a common thing you'll see in most CSS frameworks, right, is this right here. You just go through and you pick image, iframe, object, basically all of the elements there, and now they're more responsive. Good, good, good. Thumbs, check, side thumb, right? Was it y'all was a class I was talking about side thumb? My son has the side thumb. Son, how was dinner? Side thumb. Oh, fine. All right. Feature classes. Up at the very, very top, I added these in later. We have different types of anchor links. And this is why on your mobile device, this is one of my biggest pet peeves, web designers. We have ways to say, look, instead of, I go to a desktop website and it says tap to call. And I go to a mobile website and says it doesn't have a phone number that I can tap to make a phone call. So from my phone, if I tap a phone number, it should launch my phone. Yeah, I'm old, I still make phone calls, right? But from a website, I shouldn't see the word tap. And right here is adaptive content. And so what we're doing is returning regular links we're preceding them with these relatively, they're not too new, but with these prefixes. And so if we prefix our emails with mail to, it's going to launch the mail client. If we prefix with fax, it's going to launch the fax. Tel is going to launch your telephone, right? And SMS, when you tap on a message, should launch your SMS app. Okay. This is also a part of adaptive content. Don't overlook this, right? Devil's in the details. And you know, when you go to a desktop site and it says tap, you don't tap, right? So don't forget to put that in there. All right, that's a quick aside. I'm gonna leave this page. Okay, and so inside of here, you should see all of your adaptive content, right, like so. And this code block here appears in so many frameworks, okay, because it's the fastest and the easiest way. They'll take care of audio and video also. Okay, next one is the fanciness. All right. This is how we handle our content. So what we're doing here is we're going to design mobile first, right? Or desktop first, right? And we're going to scale our websites up or down. And you should be able to do both. And there's pros and cons to each advantage. But the thing is, you need to start thinking about them all. And what a media query will do is, like, basically a query is a question. We're going to query the media. We're going to ask, what pixel density is this? Okay. So it was asked in the chat, well, how come one is green and one is red? Well, if we take a look at this adaptive media clip right here. Wrong one. 1 second. I've clicked on the wrong link here. What we're doing here is we're saying, hey, first load in, right, this version. First load in whatever default version that you want for 1x. And then if it's a higher resolution screen, load in the 2x version of the same image. So here is the 2x version at 200%, okay? And what was I just looking at? This. All right, I'm getting winded here. You guys are my 6th hour of talking. Okay, that is the low res version, right? So 1x, 2x, 1x, 2x, right? And we have 2x, 3x, and 4x nowadays. And as your screens get wider and wider and bigger and more pixels, right? And this is what Netlify is actually doing for you. Netlify is just give me the biggest high res image and I'll take care of the rest. And it's so awesome. It is a time saver. Okay. All right. So we got that. And then, right. And so this is our media query. Right, and we're going to put this at the bottom of each page. So let's go ahead, and the best way to do media queries is to just change the background color. All right, someone yell out a background color.
Blue.
Blue, thank you. They're still there. Yay, thank you. All right. I can't see your names right now, but Andy, I think that was you. All right. So blue. Okay. And right here, we're going to pretend this is our device, right? So tablet, mobile, tablet, desktop, and really big desktop. So to do that, we're going to use this property called @media, okay? And this can be screen, this can be print, okay? There's lots and lots of different media types like that, okay? And, you know, eventually this is going to be a Google contact lens all the way back. And just wait, someday it's going to, or glasses, right? Legitimately, I'm not kidding you, right? These are going to change, and you can look, I don't want to bring up the reference right now, but there are lots of different media types, okay? And web designers, what frustrates me is I still have to print out websites because I'm a dad and I'm doing homeschooling. And anytime I print out a website and it's all messed up, like, why is this? You can do this. You can just write a media query for print. But in this case, we're doing a media query for screen, okay? And this is our query. And so what we're saying here is at this size. So for this, we're saying, what is the minimum resolution, right? So 144 DPI, right? So just get really, really big. This one, instead of doing it by screen resolution or portrait orientation, whether it's portrait or landscape, we're saying anything that is starting at 0, right? So a minimum width of 0. And so media queries are nested. So inside of this, we're going to take the same body element and we're going to change it to, instead of being blue, we're going to make it red, right? So go back to your specificity lecture. Okay, we're going to make it red, green, and blue. Go back to your specificity lecture. So it painted the background green, blue, and then now it's red. Okay, because it said, well, as soon as it's 0 pixels, make it red. It made it blue, and then it painted it red as soon as it's 0 pixels. And so this is going to be our mobile, right? So anything small. And wherever you go work and wherever your application is and wherever your users are, you're going to determine, you know, what to do what at what size. And that sounds complicated and confusing right now, but that's actually a benefit. The benefit here is you can determine what changes at what screen size, okay? All right, so now that we have that, we can, now the big thing to notice here is we have a CSS rule inside of a CSS rule. I'm gonna say this 3 times. We have a CSS rule inside of a CSS rule. We have a CSS rule inside of a CSS rule. A common thing that breaks is we forget to, right? We open and close this and we don't open and close this. So don't forget this. One of the things I do, because I'm almost doing this, is, right, like end of media query. So I know not to delete this curly brace, okay? So there's that. And then we're gonna go ahead and wash, rinse, and repeat. We're gonna replace this, instead of being mobile, we're going to go tablet, and right, and you can pick your screen sizes, and the screen size is gonna be at M's. So where did I get these numbers from? Where did I get, 416? Well, I said to myself, I go, well, what are my users using? And this is where you talk to your net admin people and your servers and your users, and you look at your data and you say, like, well, what are the people visiting my website? What size screens are they using? Okay, or what size screens will I support? And so now we're going to say everything that is between, excuse me here, anything is between 416 pixels and 1500 pixels, okay? That's what I'm going to support. So we're going to start at 0, and then we're going to say a minimum width of 26 Ms. How did we get 26? Because our target was 416. We divided by the context, and then we got our result, which is our minimum width. All right, the nerd in me does not like the way media queries are written, but that's what we have, and that's what we have to deal with, okay? Again, you can change this, you can keep overloading this, and you can go like, and landscape and portrait, like just give you a layout on landscape or portrait. And we're gonna change this red, green, green. How about green, yellow? All right, so it starts out, the default is blue, and at red, there it goes to the yellow, green. And then right here, you can see, if you look at my cursor, CodePen is actually showing you the screen size. And So at 400 and right, 14, at 415 it'll break, right? Sorry, 425 because it was 426. Okay, and so that's the breakpoint. Breakpoints, 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 and you, as the designer, get to decide your breakpoints. Okay, if you have something that is has a lot of media, you probably want to have larger breakpoints. Right? You have something that has less media, smaller breakpoints. All right, there's tablet. Wash, rinse, and repeat on that. And this is going to be our standard desktop size. This has also become the size for tablets, by the way. All right, see all these media queries right here? All right, your kind and handsome instructor, I can't say handsome, but your kind and talented instructor has made all these media queries for you and provided it for you. So green, yellow, and teal. There you go, just yelling out colors. All right, so red, yellow, green, and I'm never gonna get to teal. Why? Because I can never make this on my screen right now. I can't make it wide enough to be teal. Oh, I guess I can, right? And for some of you on a laptop, right, you'll never see teal, right? Because your screen's never gonna get that large, and that's okay. Your content will adjust for it. Okay, so for this lecture, make sure you understand your process. Make sure that you, I would go over these concepts for responsive design, right? Next week, we get a lot more visual. We get templates, pick template A, pick template B, okay? And with CSS Grid, we're gonna begin to be able to take a look at different layouts, and we can come in and finally get some animation, finally get some visuals into all this, right? By building on our foundation of the stuff. All right. I'm exhausted, so I'm gonna stop recording.